All right, ladies and gentlemen, they call me Eduardo.
According to this DJ and a Pan-Africanist, he has just exposed the reason why the Westerners are after Ibrahim Traore. And this guy is an historian. He has studied a lot about Africa to the extent that he understands almost how everything works. So I want you to listen carefully. Watch this video till the end and see why the West are after Ibrahim Traore. And the truth is not far-fetched. In fact, I just want you to watch this video. This is an eye-opener. Watch it to the end. As you're watching it, be sharing it and be commenting your opinion from wherever you're watching from. God bless you.
What is Ibrahim Traore's role in all that? When you look at the Americans fighting him, when you look at the West fighting him, they're not just fighting him, but they're fighting what he represents. Because he's very vigilant, extremely vigilant, the recent coup d'etat couldn't work. But I guarantee you, if he had not been that vigilant because of what happened to Sankara, the recent coup d'etat would have worked. He may not have the support of other heads of state who are mostly corrupt anyway, but now he knows that he has the support of Africans, ordinary Africans. And that's good news for Africans because we know exactly how imperialism behaves. We are not going to be caught up.
This is a small extract from what DJ Bawali shared about Ibrahim Traore and the powerful forces working against him. Discover why Traore's leadership is shaking the continent and why many African presidents are staying silent. The full story will surprise you.
NATO itself, and of course the US, what they always do is to then work with the local people who are opposing somebody that they don't like. So that they are puppeteers, they are master puppeteers. Yes. People need to understand that imperialism is in love with puppeteering. They are master puppeteers. Because when you're a puppeteer, you're pulling the strings from behind the scenes. You're not even in front, you're just behind the scenes. The one sure way of demoralizing the Africans who are being awakened in this current moment is to actually not only destabilize Burkina Faso and other African countries, but in the case of Burkina Faso, to drastically weaken Ibrahim Traore and even commit the ultimate sin, of taking him out. They realize that all that would really demoralize Africans because he represents this new Africa that the African people are completely ready for and completely embracing.
Yes.
But here's the thing, Lynn. Victor Hugo was a French writer, a French historian, a French poet and essayist, and he said that no force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. Now, the Westerners seem to forget that although it's Victor Hugo who said it, it is actually true that no force can stop an idea whose time has come. They forget that their own person actually said that they cannot stop Ibrahim Traore and they cannot stop the Africans today who embody that similar spirit of yearning for a new Africa, which is why in this scenario, you see, they tried to behave in exactly the same way. Remember, I've just told you that imperialism is a bad student that repeats the same mistakes and the same habits over and over again. And one of the habits that imperialism is really keen on doing all the time, one of the things that imperialism does here in Africa is to destabilize African governments. And one of their favorite weapons is coup d'etat. They love coup d'etats. Lynn, there have been at least 214 coup d'etats in Africa since the 50s. Many of these coup d'etats were actually instigated by the imperialists, including the US of A. They were actually instigated and they were totally behind those coup d'etats. Every time they saw an African leader becoming strong or not dancing to their tune, they would instigate a coup d'etat. They would, in the name of training, be very careful every time that America or Britain or France claim that they are training African soldiers on whatever, because embedded in this training are usually ideologies and building connections so that they get to know that they have people that they can always remote control when the right time comes. Because history is littered with instances with African soldiers who went for training, came back to Africa, and then led coup d'etats to remove leaders who are no longer dancing to the tune of the imperialists. So in this scenario, they tried that same thing. about a week or so ago, they actually tried a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso because it's a tool that they keep leaning on. So what they have done in this scenario is to have a situation where the Burkinabe people are already tired. The Burkinabe people are tired not of Ibrahim Traoré, but of the insecurity that is in their country. Africans need to understand that the main thing that brings the US and Africa together are their own selfish interests for their national security. That's about it.
Period.
Everything else revolves around that. Even whatever humanitarian support they provide occasionally, it is all meant to just beef up protecting their national security interests. These people like controlling Africa through narratives. And what they do with people like Ibrahim Traoré and previously somebody like Magufuli or even Gaddafi before him is when they say that you're in power illegitimately, when they create a narrative that then shows that you're in power illegitimately, with time, it starts to take hold. These things are very, very powerful. Anybody who is a master, an expert in advertising, will tell you that anything repeated over and over and over becomes the truth. It totally becomes the truth. So we must stop calling the Burkinabe government that the junta, the military junta there. So this guy, he used the word, the military junta is protecting itself using the reserves, the gold reserves. And he specifically mentioned Traoré, Capitan Traoré. Now, that might appear like it's just an anomaly, you know, but the reason I explained that this was a hearing in the US Armed Forces Committee is because it is now on record. And when it is on record in the second arm of the US government, the legislature, it is bordering policy. When they start branding Traoré as a criminal because he's stealing the gold of his people of Burkina Faso to protect himself, then slowly they're achieving two things: building a narrative that this government is illegitimate, but also, and more sinister, more lethal, what they're also doing is to begin to lay the groundwork of taking action. Now, let me remind people that in January 2024, the same General Michael Langley showed up in Chad. And while in Chad, he met the military leaders in Chad, because Chad remains one of the few West African countries that still has a military cooperation with the US of A. So this same general went to Chad in 2024. Remember, 2024 January, Traoré was now being accepted globally as a different kind of a leader.
Yes.
So these people are very painstaking in positioning themselves and the action they take. The reason he was in Chad was to ostensibly agree on a military cooperation. So as we speak, there are special forces of USA in Chad. There are special forces of USA in Côte d'Ivoire as we speak. Côte d'Ivoire is a neighboring country to Burkina Faso. So Africans should learn to join the dots, should learn to look at the facts and understand that, again, we go back to Thomas Sankara. Imperialism being a bad student, imperialism having the habit of repeating its tactics over and over because they have run out of ideas. So when you look at that, you begin to see now imperialism behaving as it has behaved before. Because now we have the US Special Forces in Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
We have the US Special Forces in Chad. And they are saying that the government in Burkina Faso is a criminal government because it is using proceeds from the gold to protect itself. So when you begin to join these dots, you begin to realize that this is not about conspiracy theories, neither is it about paranoia, but clearly there's something brewing. There's something happening.
Yes.
The difference with what has been happening in the past is that Africans are awakening. Because 2 days ago, on April 30th, Wednesday, Africans and people across the world responded to General Michael Langley's assertion during that hearing, when there were all those demonstrations in Burkina Faso, in Britain, in Kenya, across the world. There were all those demonstrations in support of Ibrahim Traore and what he represents. And many of them were saying, hands off Ibrahim Traore. So that's the difference this time. Previously, all these things would be happening beneath the radar, and then one day you wake up to the headline, coup d'etat in Burkina Faso. Or God forbid, something even worse than that. But now people are awakening. Now, what people have to do is to go further. The genesis of Burkina Faso's problems goes back to when NATO attacked Libya. And then after NATO attacked Libya and Libya collapsed, the jihadists then poured into the Sahel. And when they poured into the Sahel, what the imperialists, in this scenario, France, NATO itself, and of course the US, what they always do is to then work with the local people who are opposing somebody that they don't like. So that they are puppeteers, they are master puppeteers. Yes. People need to understand that imperialism is in love with puppeteering. They are master puppeteers because when you're a puppeteer, you're pulling the strings from behind the scenes. You're not even in front, you're just behind the scenes. So what happened is that they have taken advantage of these jihadists. But they're the same ones who are arming these jihadists. They're the same ones who have taken advantage of historical enmities and natural environment-induced enmities, because that's a very dry region. So sometimes some of these communities used to fight over resources, but now there's that jihadist angle.